Hey guys, Rochelle here with Amethyst Ascension. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, thank you so much for joining me again. So, I want to start this conversation off by addressing something that I've been seeing more and more during periods of drama in the wider tarot tube community. While I talk about this, I'm going to do a walkthrough, a pairings walkthrough of the Gothic Literature Tarot by Syrian Shadow, which is stunning and very shadowy, which I think this topic is very shadowy, along with my Matrix deck, okay? And then it does have a corresponding Book of Secrets, although I have changed the cover since, and it matches more the box, or the tin, this version. So anyways, I've seen people comment that they're tired of deck walkthroughs or reviews, that it's easy content or somehow less valuable than other types of videos. And I want to say this clearly and respectfully. This argument forgets where we are. We are in the tarot community. Walkthroughs and reviews are not filler content, because I've heard people say that it's lazy content, right? I feel like they are a service. They help people make informed decisions about where they spend their money. They help beginners feel less overwhelmed. They help seasoned readers evaluate whether a deck actually fits their practice. And it's very easy to dismiss this kind of content, especially when you are not the one showing up consistently on camera, week after week, trying to create something that connects. And what I mean by that is something that connects to other members of, the community, right? Sharing in this love that is on TarotTube, tarot community, tarot decks, walkthroughs, right? It's also easy to criticize content creators when you're not the one living inside the reality of it. People forget the time that it takes, the planning, the filming, the editing, and the emotional energy. They forget that creators have full lives, families, jobs, responsibilities, and are still choosing to show up and contribute to a shared space. Love is a valid reason to share. Many people make walkthroughs because they love their decks. They're excited. They want to share that joy. They want to connect with others who love tarot too. That's why I would say the majority, and I know that this is my own perception, but I would hope that the reason why the majority of people are in the tarot community is for their love of tarot, or for their interest in tarot, or whatever, right? But it's revolving around tarot and oracle. So that impulse to share what they love is not something to be belittled. It's the heartbeat of any creative community. Then we also have to take into consideration like beginners' fear and gatekeeping energy. So we also have beginners entering the tarot community all the time, and they're nervous, right? Do you remember, if you're a content creator, how nervous you were to even start your channel, and how you felt like, what kind of voice do I have, right? How can I contribute into a community like this? So you have a lot of people that just lurk, and that's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all, but it seems like when the drama comes out, then those lurkers who don't really make content, unless they're not really in their main accounts, but there's no way for me to know that, right? Not in their main channel, and they're just making these snide comments. I don't think that's the case. I think they just don't understand the involvement and what it takes, and the pressure that you feel once you get behind the camera and you're in the community and you want to put out content, that you feel like also connects you with other people in the community, right? They don't, when you're new, when you're a beginner and they're nervous, they don't always know what kind of content to make at first. They're already afraid of being judged, especially if they've been in this community long enough, right? They know. And then they see how easily people tear others down for not doing enough or doing the wrong kind of content, i.e. walkthroughs and in a tarot community, right? Go figure. So that kind of rhetoric, it does not raise the bar. It just raises the walls. I don't understand the need. Honestly, I don't understand the need to knock people down or belittle the content that they make, especially when many of the loudest critics have no idea what it takes to create consistently or how vulnerable it feels to put yourself out there at all. This isn't about defending one type of video. It's about questioning why we've become so comfortable dismissing other people's efforts or their language, right? Or the way that they choose to show up to the tarot community, right? This is where the conversation about consumerism really needs to shift, because blaming walkthroughs or reviews is just inaccurate. It distracts us from the deeper issues. And that's what I really want to talk about today. Consumerism does not live in deck reviews. It lives in the heart of the watcher. And that leads me into the next part of this conversation for me, okay? So it's about whether or not somebody is feeling informed or influenced. Because also this talk of consumerism, right? And walkthroughs. And so I want to talk about something that comes up again and again in this tarot community also. This ongoing conversation about consumerism, deck walkthroughs, hauls, and reviews. So I want to approach this with nuance and not blame, all right? I don't actually believe that consumerism is created by deck reviews. I believe that consumerism lives in the heart of the watcher themselves. A thorough walkthrough showing the imagery, the cardstock, the size, the guidebook, doing sample readings right out of the book, out of the guidebook. It's not manipulation. It's not manipulation to get you to buy a deck. It is information. Information is what allows people to say yes or no, right? Desire is already there. So if you're on TarotTube, desire already exists for you. Or why are you on TarotTube? This is a space built around tools, decks, books, practices, study, and learning. At least this portion of TarotTube. There are other parts of TarotTube, okay? But I'm not talking about those parts. Desire doesn't suddenly appear because someone did a walkthrough. It's already part of the ecosystem here. And here's something that we don't talk about enough. Even when I'm not reviewing anything, people always ask about everything. They ask about my decks that are in the background if I'm a talking head. They've asked about my rings. They ask about my nail polish. I've had people ask about my clothing, about my planners, about my markers that I use, about my tarot mats, about my cloths, about everything. I've had people ask about my earrings. I've had people ask about the shade of the paint on my wall. Okay? I've had people ask about what is my lipstick shade. Where did I get it? What's the name brand? You get where I'm going, right? You get where I'm going. There is no way to exist visibly in a material world without activating curiosity in someone who already has a consumer heart. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So, at some point, I hope that we can stop blaming creators and start asking deeper questions. Questions like, how do I personally relate to desire? Because two people can watch the exact same video. One feels grounded and informed, and the other feels comparison and lack. Is that the creator's fault? Or is that about how somebody is already showing up to the table? Okay? That difference doesn't come from the content. It comes from the inner relationship with wanting that we have. So for me personally, walkthrough style reviews help me feel calm and clear. They reduce regret for me because I can tell you throughout the years, the ones that I really regret purchasing are the ones most generally when I did not have a walkthrough as my backup. So as much as we want to complain, and I know not everybody complains, this is not for everybody. This is for that hateful rhetoric that's continuing to go around year after year after year. I've been here for, it'll be 8 years this year that I have been on TarotTube, and I have heard it every year that I've been here. So clearly it's not out of our system. Clearly we haven't dealt with our TarotTube shadow work, okay? Because and it's probably still not going to make a difference for everybody. I hope it just, at least this conversation gives us a respectful place to start talking about some of these things instead of just placing blame everywhere, you know, and making people feel less than, or that your inability to control your spending habits is somebody else's fault for sharing, right? I mean, how do you go to a restaurant and eat a meal without, wanting what everyone else has right next to you, if that's the case? This is the world that we live in. So for me, the walkthrough reviews like this actually reduce regret for me. They help me decide whether a deck is actually fits what I need, right? So I will tell you what creates more FOMO for me is watching someone else's deeply bonded, romanticized relationship with a deck. I've had more regrets from that than your run-of-the-mill, show me the details of the deck reviews. People that have worked with something for a year and they just bonded with it so beautifully. I look at that and I romanticize like, oh, so if I get that deck, that means I'm going to work with that deck in that manner. I used to do leadership classes, okay? Teach leadership classes. I was a recruiter for Avon, gosh, a long time ago. And so I had a team of women that were under me. Not under me, but that I had recruited and that I was teaching, okay? And I used to listen to like a lot of Zig Ziglar and stuff like that, like really good at sales, and I helped my husband when he was taking his marketing, when he got his marketing degree in business and all that. One of the ways that we sell things is by showing how much we love that. So it's not about, it's like a car. you're not just selling the car, you're selling the luxury that that car brings in. That's the selling point. Like, does it have heated steering wheel? Does it have heated seats? Does it have remote start? Does it have power windows on? Of course, most of them have power windows. No, they all do. I'm just being aged here, but you see what I'm saying? It's the convenience that that luxury creates in the life. So when I see a deep bonding that somebody has done for a year with a deck, I romanticize that that's how I'm going to use that deck. That leads me into more fear of missing out what that other person experienced with the deck. But in reality, that's usually not how I work with the deck, right? I might. I'm not saying that I won't, but, and I don't want to devalue that either, because that is just as much a part of tarot, the tarot community and tarot love and all that. But I hear this same rhetoric over and over again, you know, just don't show me any more decks, just show me how you tarot. But if you're showing how you tarot, show me how you use your tarot, you're still showing the tarot. You're still showing the decks. You're still showing your planners, maybe. We did this for a year and what? 14, 15 months, where that's all we did was show how we worked with all of our decks and using various topics and deep diving. And you know, we got way, way less views across the board. I can tell you, this is something that we talked about very much, that we got way less views on that people really didn't want to see that. But when we would do a walkthrough, we got way more views, right? When you do a haul video, look at the numbers. Don't take my word for it. Look at the numbers. That's what people want. People want to see the decks. They want to see the goods, because that is in the heart of us. That is in the heart of the person. So I want to invite you gently into some reflection. But so what I was saying is that the FOMO for me is watching people when they are really loving on their decks and how they used it and how they planned with it. When I see the way that people plan, I romanticize it. They make their junk journals and I go, oh, I want to do that. Have you guys ever purchased, like, I know for me and I know some of my friends, we have so many craft supplies because we want to craft like that. And when the time comes, then we either don't have the time, or then we go on to the next thing and we don't do it as much. But we have it there in case we're ready. You know, like I got stuff for making books. I got stuff for beading. I used to do stained glass, and I got stuff for learning how to crochet and stuff like that. We've got like paint by numbers. We've got like the bejeweled number things, you know, where you stick them on. We started that. We've started puzzles, and then we don't finish. Me and my husband. But I romanticize that stuff. And that's what gets me to purchase it. Or if I don't see a walkthrough and then I purchase something because I didn't see a walkthrough beforehand. And most of the shops that I go to, they don't have open boxes, right? So I can't just go into a store and say, oh, this deck looks interesting. And just look at, sometimes they don't even have pictures on the backs of the boxes. I mean, that seems like a travesty to me. But is it designed to get people to buy them? Because even this mentality of returning stuff, people don't like returning stuff. So I have more regret from not having walkthroughs. I have more regret personally, this is just my own reflection, from watching people that work with their decks for a long time, because I romanticize how they work with that deck, and then that's how I want to work with it, and then it just doesn't end up that way. I romanticize about doing paper journaling, but then I just don't do it because I feel limited in it personally, right? So I do want to invite everybody to some gentle reflection, if you feel up to it, right? here are some questions that I have for you, and I will be putting them down below. So, when you think about decks that you regret buying, what kind of review influenced that decision? Was it just a simple walkthrough like this that showed all the pictures? Or even like a review style deck that I have done, walkthrough, where you're showing all of the images, you're showing, you're talking about what you think of the card, like your first impressions kind of thing. Then you're also showing how it pairs with other decks. A lot of us that are in TarotTube have large collections or even medium-sized collections, but that's why I tried, when I was doing the reviews, I would try to show them with a whole bunch of different other decks for pairings, because people do like to pair their stuff. I know I do. I like to pair. I fell in love with Oracle before I fell in love with Tarot. So, but I love how they speak to each other, right? Or Oracle on Oracle, or Tarot on Tarot, and or using 5 different decks in a reading. So I like to do pairings so that I can also help somebody decide, because I know personally I have, one of the deciding factors for me was whether or not it was going to pair with something that I was looking for a deck for it to pair with. So I also put that in my reviews, not as a way to manipulate you, but as a way of showing you whether or not it is something that you're going to want, by showing you all the information so that you can make an informed decision, right? As the consumer. So, which style of review tends to create more FOMO for you personally? Like I said, for me, it's definitely the really romanticized, I worked with this for blah 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 blah, and this is how it worked for me, and then they show their journal pages of working with it, and I'm just like, oh, am I going to have that same kind of experience? I want to have that kind of breakthrough with that deck. Maybe that's going to happen. All right. So, yes. Okay. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that too. I have done the same thing. And I know that I have probably enabled a whole lot of people by doing my stuff, by doing my walkthroughs and stuff. Right. And I can't help it. When I love something, I love something. It's hard for me to not say that I love it, Oh, that's what I'm here for, is to share. So, which kind helps you feel grounded and confident after buying? The kind of reviews that I do were the ones that helped me to make an informed decision. I like having straight up, I can tell you, I friggin' hate it actually, when people do walkthroughs, and this is just me personally, when they do walkthroughs and they put it up to their face and they're showing it and their face is in the image, simply because if I'm here for a walkthrough or a review, show me the money. This is prime real estate right here. Not that I don't think your face is friggin' gorgeous. It is, okay? And just when you're showing the deck, just put it down on the deck so that we can see it, please. That's just me, okay? As somebody that stalks the deck. But that's another reason why I like watching several different walkthroughs, because of the different perspectives, the different angles, the different cameras. I'm kind of obsessive with that. I don't just usually watch one walkthrough and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta have that. I'll watch 10 walkthroughs in order to help me make a decision, okay? So all of your walkthroughs are valid to me, okay? Do you tend to buy decks for how you hope that you'll work with them, or how you realistically do? That's the next question. And yes, I have definitely done both. I think the more that my collection gets larger or has grown, that's when I felt safe enough to start saying, I don't need that deck. I've already got something that fills that, really. But I also want to say that I do believe that different decks bring different energy. They bring different, because we don't just work with the images, although we do. We don't just work with the meanings of the cards. the way that the cards look. That also inspires the reading. For me, it does. It sparks my intuition in many different ways, right? So, do you tend to buy decks for how? So I have bought them for both. For how I realistically end up using it, but also for how I wish that I was going to use it, you know? Like, well, when I do this, I'm going to buy this deck for when I do this practice, or I'm going to buy this deck for when I do this practice. I might not ever even start that practice. At least not for 2 years, 3 years, who knows? Time permitting, you know? So question 5, what information do you wish more reviewers shared before purchase? Okay. These are the things that I love in a review. And this is also where I want to encourage everybody else that is in the tarot community. If you're a watcher and you're not somebody that is a content creator yet, then just leave me a comment down below or share it somewhere. Share it on your Instagram or share it on your Facebook, what you love, and tag me in it somehow. Well, I'll give a hashtag, okay? But tell me, what are the things that you love to see in a review that helps you make an informed decision? Because if you have, and I'm sure that many of you can relate to this, if I have $100 to spend, sometimes there's just one deck that is so worth it, even if it's $100, that I'm going to get it. But the majority of the time, I will sit there and I bargain shop. So I can either get this one deck or I can get 4 or 5 of these decks if they're on Amazon. And which ones do I want more? How do I think I'm going to use these ones more or this one? Or how badly do I want this one? Is there a sale coming maybe? You know what I mean? So the kind of things that I love are, I need to know the card stock. I need to know the size. Because let me show you a deck that I friggin' adore. But I never work with it. You want to know why I don't work with it? I'll show you. It's this one. I never pull for it. It's the Stunning Tarot by Jonasa Yaus. I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly. I love this. I think it's so stunning. I wanted it so badly. But, and even this size, this is the smaller one. They had the bigger one. Look at, there is no way for me to even, other than a few of them, I cannot even shuffle this good because my hands literally are not long enough. My reach is not long enough. The shuffle is so important to me. So this is not an easy deck for me to use. So I rarely pull for it. I rarely do because the shuffle is really important. Okay. So that's why size matters to me. What the card stock is like. I got some decks that, and I've talked about this too with rose petal. So this is a beautiful rose petal. This in the Syrian, what is it called again? The Gothic literature. This one shuffles beautifully for me, even though, and I'll show you, even though this is rose petal, it is like a, and I've referred to it before as like shag carpet. You know, this is a beautiful. It doesn't stick together. I don't know what he did. I mean, I don't think it's not the worst fanning I've ever seen, but it's clearly not a fanning deck. That's not the most important thing to me. Maybe it is for you, you know, but it's not for me. But this is important. Oh, I cannot tell you how much that is part of my tarot process. How much I love that. The whole part of it. This one is okay. Doing it like this, right? I take satisfaction in that too, but nothing like the riffle, and the bridge. And if it's on a forgiving cardstock. I like thinner decks because my hands are arthritic. So knowing whether or not a deck is really, really thick, thick cardstock, or whether or not it sticks together, or the cardstock, let me just say, the cardstock and the size are huge for me. The first most important thing is the artwork. Do I think I'm going to mesh with the artwork? If I don't mesh with the artwork, it's already a no. I'm shallow like that. But if I don't like the artwork, I'm not going to pull it out. I'm not going to connect with it. So I know myself, good enough to know that it's not worth it for me. A book, having a good book, it's not a prerequisite if I love the artwork so much and all of the other things. I want to work with it. But my favorite is most definitely, I've wanted to go to different places instead of make playing cards, right? But I am afraid because, damn it, I love make playing cards, cardstock. The linen is just everything to me. This is just beautiful. And also, in my environment, I have a lot of my decks. I mean, over half of my decks are warped because I live in Michigan, because of the changing weather, the humidity, and then the dryness. So it warps my decks. So I need to find out some really good things in order to, see what I can do in order to try to help that. Or I just deal with it. But these decks I don't have to worry about. The linen, the cardstock from Make Playing Cards, it never warps in my environment. Even this one warped. It hasn't warped, but it's like bowed just slightly. Not enough for me to care. I don't care about that. But yes, that matters to me. I want to see if there is a book that comes with it, how well it reads, how much information is in there. If I'm getting a deck that's like historical, then I want to have the historical information in there. Those are all things that are important to me. But I don't want to romanticize it. I just want to know the facts, right? For me. So those are the things that are most important to me when doing a review. Not how you work with it, because as much as I love hearing how you work with it, that creates more FOMO for me. And more FOMO also is created for, like, when people put things on Make Playing Cards and then they take them down, that creates a FOMO kind of thing, because there's no reason to take them down unless you're taking it somewhere else. That's just my opinion. So that creates FOMO in consumers. It is a strategy, right? It's a tactic that's used. When something goes out of print because they no longer just want to do it, that's one thing. But when it's print on demand, why? Why do that? So that creates FOMO. Limited runs, when you don't know whether or not they're going to print it again. If it's something that I really want, yep, that creates FOMO. It's terrible for me, okay? So there is no right or wrong answers here. It's just your honest opinions, how you feel about these things, right? Without throwing projections over to other people, without judging people for how they tarot, what they love about tarot, what they don't like about tarot. Let's just really put it out on the table in a respectful manner, right? I do have a tarot spread also, which I will put down in the description. I'm sorry this has been a little bit longer, but this has been a video that I have been needing to make for a very long time, okay? So if you want to take this even deeper, I've created a tarot spread that you can use before buying a deck or to reflect on your past purchases. So here is the first question. What draws me to this deck? Instead of the interview deck, it's like the pre-interview or after reflection deck, right? After purchasing it, the reflection. So what this deck is actually offering, how I tend to use decks like this, what I'm projecting onto this deck, what will help me decide wisely, and the outcome of buying it now. So if you're like on the fence, you know what I mean? So if you're like me and you've got this $100 to buy this one really good deck or $100 to buy these 4 decks, you know what I mean? It can also help you make those kind of decisions. So it isn't about telling you yes or no. It's just about returning choice to you by actually reflecting on it, right? And slowing down. So I do want to turn this into a community-wide tag called hashtag informed or influenced. So I hope this resonates with you, and I invite you to share which type of review supports you more, what creates FOMO for you, and how you're learning to choose decks in a way that feels aligned. This isn't about shaming desire. It's about relating to it consciously, understanding our own patterns, and understanding the patterns of Tarot Tube itself, the energy of, Tarot Tube that we push out into our conversations. So, deck reviews, in my opinion, do not create consumerism. Unexamined desire does, okay? Information gives us choice. Discernment gives us peace. And that's the conversation that I want us to have. So, again, I will put it down below, and you'll see it in the title, but it's a hashtag informed or influenced walkthroughs, consumerism. It's all going to be in there somewhere because that's a lot of stuff that I've talked about in here, so I'm not exactly sure what the title's going to be. But thank you for spending this time with me, and I really hope that you join this conversation in a loving, compassionate, and respectful manner. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I am sending you my love always.